You are a professional narrator for a high-level finance education video. Follow these exact instructions. This video is not investment advice, it is purely educational content. You've been told your entire life that the safest thing you can do with your money is save it. Put it in a savings account, build your emergency fund, don't take risks. Your parents said it, your school taught it, and your bank celebrated it. But what if that safety is actually the most dangerous financial decision you'll ever make? What if the very thing you're doing to protect your wealth is systematically destroying it? By the time you hit 60 years old, that safe habit could have cost you $250,000. Not lost, cost. The difference matters, and today we're going to expose exactly how. Here's what nobody wants to tell you. Your bank doesn't want you to understand this. The financial system is built on keeping ordinary people in savings accounts while the wealthy use completely different rules. The spread between what savers make and what investors make isn't a small gap anymore. It's a chasm, and it grows wider every single year you wait. Let me show you the math. Imagine two people, both starting at age 35 with $10,000. Person A follows the conventional wisdom. They put their money in a savings account earning 0.5% annually, which is actually generous by today's standards. They add $200 every single month, like a responsible person. Person B takes that same initial $10,000, adds the same $200 monthly, but invests it in a diversified index fund averaging 7% annually over the long term. By age 60, after 25 years of this exact same discipline, Person A has $184,000. Person B has over $430,000. That's not luck, that's not gambling, that's mathematics. But wait, there's more. Let's talk about inflation, because your savings account is definitely not protecting you from that. Over the past 25 years, inflation has averaged about 3% per year. So that safety net you're building, it's actually shrinking in real purchasing power every single month. You're not saving, you're slowly getting poorer while thinking you're being responsible. I want to tell you about Marcus. He's a real person I know, not a hypothetical. Marcus graduated college at 22 with no debt, which was already rare. He did exactly what he was taught. He got a decent job making $50,000 a year. He opened a savings account and committed to saving 15% of his income. For 35 years, he did this without fail. He was disciplined. He was responsible. He never missed a deposit. He never touched the money except for true emergencies. At 57, Marcus retired with about $320,000 saved. His financial advisor told him he was doing well. But here's what keeps Marcus up now night. That amount sounds big until you realize he needed $750,000 to retire comfortably given his lifestyle and his lifespan. He'd saved less than half of what he needed, and he'd spent 35 years of his life being perfectly disciplined about it. Let me address what I know you're thinking. You're thinking about risk. You're thinking about 2008 or 2020 or the volatility you see in the news. And that's a legitimate concern, which is exactly why the system keeps you thinking about it. Here's the reality. Yes, stock markets fluctuate. They always have. But they have also recovered every single time in history. Someone who invested in the market at the absolute worst time possible, right before the 2008 crash, if they just held and kept investing, by 2010, they were already back to break even. By 2015, they were up significantly. The real risk isn't short-term volatility. The real risk is the slow, invisible erosion of your purchasing power while you sleep soundly in a savings account. And you want to know the most infuriating part? The banks know this. The people running these institutions absolutely understand compound interest and inflation, but they don't advertise that your savings account is losing value. Instead, they market it as safety. They use words like secure and protected. It's genius marketing, really. They've convinced you that losing money slowly is safer than potentially gaining money faster. Now, let's talk about the objection I hear most often. I need my money to be accessible. That's fair. That's real. And here's the thing. Having money available and keeping it in a savings account aren't the same decision. You can have liquid, accessible investments. Money market accounts, treasury bonds, dividend-paying stocks, index funds that you can sell within days. You don't have to choose between accessibility and growth. The financial system has just conditioned you to think those are your options. The second objection? What if I lose it all? Okay, what if you do? What if the entire stock market disappears tomorrow and never recovers? You know what happens? You'll still have more money than the person who kept their savings account. Because even with a 50% loss on a diversified portfolio, you're still ahead of someone earning 0.5% over 25 years. The math is brutal. I want to tell you about Sarah. Sarah is different from Marcus. Sarah started at the same place, a decent salary, young, no debt, all the potential in the world. But at age 25, someone actually explained compound interest and risk to her. Not perfectly, not with total certainty, but they explained it. Sarah started investing. She wasn't aggressive. She put 70% into a diversified index fund and kept 30% in savings for peace of mind. She added $300 every single month. When the 2020 pandemic hit and the market dropped 30%, she panicked. She didn't panic sell, but she definitely panicked. She considered moving to cash. She talked to her friends who said, "I told you savings accounts were safer." But she stuck it out. By age 60, Sarah had over $1.1 million. Marcus, with his perfect, safe discipline, had $320,000. The difference isn't because Sarah was smarter or luckier. It's because Sarah understood that comfort today costs you security tomorrow.
Here's what really bothers me about this system. It's not accidental. Schools don't teach financial literacy because the system benefits from your ignorance. Banks don't tell you about inflation because they profit from your savings account. Investment firms don't market to the middle class aggressively because they make more money from institutional investors. You're not being guided by accident. You're being managed. Let me break down what actually happens with your money in a savings account versus invested. In a savings account earning 0.5% on $10,000, you make $50 a year. That $50 is taxed as ordinary income, so you're really making about $38 after taxes. Inflation eats about $300 of purchasing power, so you actually lost $262 in real wealth that year while thinking you were building it. You didn't make money, you lost money wearing a safety costume. Now, I understand the fear underneath all this. The fear isn't really about risk in the market. The fear is about loss. You can see a savings account statement. You can touch that security. The idea of putting money into something you don't fully control, somewhere you can't see it every month, that feels dangerous. But that's the exact psychological vulnerability the system exploits. It makes the invisible loss feel safer than the visible fluctuation. You know what's actually dangerous? Retiring at 65 with $300,000 when you need $700,000. That's dangerous. That's the danger that's hiding behind the safety narrative. That's the danger of a slow, predictable, utterly catastrophic decline in your quality of life. Here's what I want you to do right now before you dismiss this. Go check your savings account interest rate. Write it down. Then check the long-term historical average return of the S&P 500. That's approximately 10% over the past 50 years. The gap between those two numbers is not a difference in risk profile. It's a difference in who benefits. One benefits you minimally, the other benefits you massively. I want to tell you about David. David heard all this information. He understood it intellectually, but he had one real barrier. He didn't know where to start. He was afraid of making a mistake. So he did nothing for another 5 years. He kept his money in savings. At 40, he finally opened a Roth IRA and started investing. He still had 25 years to retirement, which is still a long time, but those 5 years of delay cost him approximately $120,000 in compound growth. Not because the market earned amazing returns, just because of basic mathematics. 5 years of waiting cost him more than 5 years of working saved. So here's the question you need to answer for yourself. How much is your comfort today worth in retirement security tomorrow? Because that's the actual trade-off. It's not safety versus risk. It's comfort now versus security later. And the system has done such an incredible job of reframing this that most people never even ask the question. The beautiful part about understanding this is you don't need to become a day trader. You don't need to pick individual stocks. You don't need to understand every nuance of the market. You need to understand one thing. Money grows when you put it in the right place, and time is your superpower.
A person making $30,000 a year who invests consistently beats a person making $100,000 a year who saves in a bank account. Salary is irrelevant. Consistency and vehicle are everything. And before you say you don't have money to invest, let's be honest with ourselves. If you're watching this video on YouTube, you have a phone or computer that costs several $100s. You probably have Netflix. You probably have other subscriptions. You probably spend money on things that don't matter. This isn't about not having money, it's about priority. It's about deciding that your future is worth more than your comfort today. Let me tell you about Jennifer. Jennifer's story is the one that hits me the hardest because she represents so many people. Jennifer was a single mother making $45,000 a year. She had student loans, she had a car payment, she had real constraints, but she understood this principle. She found $300 a month she could invest, not by cutting everything out, but by being intentional. She opened a Roth IRA and put that $300 in every single month. She didn't time the market, she didn't pick stocks, she just let it grow. At age 62, when she was tired and ready to retire, she had over $450,000 from that simple, consistent habit. She retired early, lived comfortably, and never had to work until 70 because she understood the power of this one decision. But people will tell you that Jennifer is an outlier. They'll say she was lucky or special or had an advantage. That's the comfort narrative again. It's not luck, it's mathematics. It's the same mathematics available to you right now. Let me address one more objection, because I know it's real. What about recessions? What about bear markets? Here's the actual data. If you invested in the market at the absolute worst time in the past 100 years, right before the Great Depression in 1929, and you just held for 25 years, you still made money. If you invested right before the 2008 crash and held for 10 years, you were up significantly. If you invested right at the peak in 2021 and held to now, you're still up in most diversified portfolios. The system wants you to believe that timing matters and that you're not smart enough to invest. But the real secret is that time matters infinitely more than timing. Here's how you actually get started. Open a Roth IRA at a major brokerage. The name doesn't matter. Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, they're all fine. Put your money into a total stock market index fund or a target date retirement fund. That's it. Contribution limit is $7,000 a year, or $583 a month. If that's too much, do what you can. If you have access to a 401k through your employer, max that out first. That's free money matching that you're literally leaving on the table if you don't. Then do the Roth IRA, then do a taxable brokerage account. The order matters because of tax optimization, but honestly, starting anywhere beats not starting at all. 25 years from now, you're going to be exactly this age plus 25. The question is, will you be in your current financial situation or worse? Or will you be Jennifer or Sarah or someone who finally understood that the safe choice is actually the dangerous one? Here's what I want you to understand at the deepest level. This isn't about getting rich. This isn't about beating the market. This is about not being poor in retirement. This is about having the freedom to choose whether you work at 65 or whether you retire. This is about not being a burden to your children. This is about dignity. And that's not about taking on huge risk. It's about taking the actual risk, which is doing nothing. I think about Marcus sometimes. I wonder if he watches these videos. I wonder if he realizes that at 57, he still has years ahead of him to change this trajectory. He could change his vehicle today. He could start investing now. He'd have less time to compound, but he'd still have time. The beautiful part about this principle is that it works at any age for any income level. It's never too late to start, but it's also never too early, and that's the real message. The rich don't put their money in savings accounts. They understand compound interest. They understand that the stock market is not a casino. It's a wealth-building tool that's been designed to make you money over time if you stay consistent and patient. And they definitely don't advertise this fact, because your ignorance is their wealth. If you found value in this video, please like it. Help someone stuck in the savings account trap understand that there's a different way. Subscribe, because we're going to keep breaking down these financial myths that cost you money. In the next video, we're going to talk about the specific tax strategies that millionaires use that you've never heard of, because this is just the beginning of understanding how wealth actually works. The safe savings habit doesn't protect you. It ages you slowly into poverty while making you feel secure. The real safety is understanding how money works and taking action today. That's it. That's the whole secret. Everything else is just noise and fear designed to keep you exactly where you are. You now know better.